Welcome to the second episode of the Marketing Manifest Podcast Season 2, where I bring you the top marketers and e-commerce business owners with their latest insights and strategies that can help you grow your e-commerce business. Today we have Vidhu Ravinath joining us. Vidhu is the founder of Underdog Media and ScrollStop, two agencies that help D2C e-commerce brands lower their CAC and scale their Facebook and TikTok ads with performance creative strategy and UGC content creation. In this episode, we'll be discussing the basics of UGC and why it is becoming increasingly important for any D2C businesses. Vidhu will share strategies for ensuring the integrity of UGC as well as case studies of businesses that have successfully navigated the challenges of UGC. Finally, we'll also explore certain tips and tricks for managing UGC effectively so businesses can make the most of this powerful marketing tool while minimizing their risk. So, go grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's learn about the world of user-generated content with Vidhu Ravinath. Great. So I'm excited to have Vidhu in the podcast, the Marketing Manifest, and he's an amazing person when it comes to running paid advertisement, and also he's really good at creating high converting UGC videos that also help simultaneously performance marketers to develop their sales or revenue with respect to the e-commerce store. And I'm so glad to have you here, Vidhu. And I think this is definitely going to be a valuable conversation for the audience who are listening here. And yeah, welcome to the Marketing Manifest podcast.
Hey, thank you so much. Thanks a lot for having me. Yeah.
Great. So today's topic, I would like to discuss on like how exactly UGC videos help with respect to performance marketing for any D2C brand, right? Like, because I see a lot of D2C brands coming into the space, and Facebook ads is not like how it was 5 years back. A lot of
exactly, yeah.
And today, creatives are the gold mine. It's not like
right.
Audiences or interest that works right now. Because even today, even with a broad audience, you're still able to generate sales. That's something that I've seen with the clients that I'm working with.
Right.
Broad targeting is also working out really well. But I think in order to get the sales from a broad targeting, you definitely need to have a good content, because I feel that's the first touch point for a customer.
Touch point, yeah.
Correct, right. So on a layman term, how do you explain, because there are a lot of newbies who are coming into the e-commerce marketing industry who's going to listen to this particular podcast, and there are also a lot of brand owners who will be listening to the same. So on a layman term, how do you define a UGC content, and how do you think it is important for any e-commerce brand?
Right, understood. Cool. So I think just starting with exactly what is UGC, right? UGC stands for user generated content. Yeah. So the whole idea is, right, let's say, all of us use Facebook, we all use Instagram, we all probably scroll through way too many reels in a day, right? The thing is, it's very common for us to see a sponsored post, which is basically is an ad. This is what typically the both of us run, right, for a lot of brands. Yeah. Now what's happened is, right, like we use Instagram so much, we get so much different content, right? As soon as somebody sees sponsored, the natural reaction is skip it. Ignore it, right? If it's a story, they'll swipe to the right. If it's a reel, they'll swipe up, right? So the thing is, it's because a lot of brands, typically the content that they have in terms of ads are super high production quality, right? It's shot in this fancy studio and all that stuff is done, right? Now the thing is, when, let's say, if you look at the general kind of content, let's say in reels, right? It looks so simple. It's like somebody took up their phone, front camera, selfie video, they shot it, or somebody's dancing. That's the kind of content they see, right? So even in UGC, what we're doing is, right, is we create content that looks very native to the platform. Meaning, let's say, for example, if you remove that sponsored tag, a user would not even be able to tell, hey, that's an ad. That's how native it looks to the feed that's there, right? So one thing is, people are less likely to skip that piece of content because it looks like just looks like another reel from another creator. You know what I mean? So that's what a UGC is. And I think even going on to what you mentioned about why should brands create UGC content, right? Especially in terms of ads. I think the main reason is that, like you rightly said, Facebook as a platform has changed tremendously over the past 5 years, right? So if you had to kind of, let's say, like iOS 14 in a lot of ways was like where Facebook changed, right? So let's say before iOS 14, like I said, all about targeting, all about narrow interest targeting. That's what really worked well, right? And at that particular time, you could just throw up any image ad with some copy with your brand product, and Facebook was good at getting great results, right? But I think post iOS, especially in India, right, a lot of e-commerce brands are struggling in Facebook, right? Tons of brands we speak to, similar situation, right? But post iOS, what basically happened is it's not much more a game of targeting anymore, right? So exactly like I said, in fact, the targeting we do is broad, right? But what we focus a lot more exactly is on the creative strategy. Right. So what again I mean by creative here is UGC is definitely a core element of that, but including other types of ads also, right? So having a very proper system of testing new ads, testing new messages, right? And even what we like say, even at our agencies, creative is the new targeting. You create a good piece of content with a particular message, right? Think of it like a sales pitch. You're testing out that sales pitch in the format of an ad. If that sales pitch through Facebook is getting good sales, they will automatically show that ad to similar people like that. So that's honestly the way Facebook targeting is these days, right? So it's more about now from the brand side and marketers like us, we are focusing a lot more on the creative part, especially through UGC, right? How are we going to tell this brand story? What angle, what sales which you're using, right? So yeah, that's honestly why it's very important even brands create that, because Facebook is still a very profitable channel for a lot of e-commerce brands. Tons of brands are working still are able to get even at 5+ ROAS, right? Sure, times have changed in that front, but I think it's time to make that switch towards focusing on creative, and yeah, that's all we do, and that's all I'm about. So
I completely agree, and I also completely agree to this. And on a side note, like also Facebook and Instagram is more like a push marketing channel, right? People don't come there with a purchase.
Intent to buy.
They just come there for some kind of entertainment or watch some reels or people dancing,
right?
Or if there is a food blogger who posts a lot of food related content, this is what people love doing on Instagram, and I feel it's really important for marketers like us. And I think when we sort of create these UGC ads, I think it's also important to make sure that we're not being too salesy as well, rather educate the audience and then try converting them on a later stage, right? That's how things work with respect to right today, 2023. If you ask me, I think that's
absolutely
And so so I think you have worked with a lot of brands, and I think you have created more than 100 or 200 UGC videos, and so there should be a set process, right? I feel even today, where a lot of marketers still don't know the actual concept of how do you create a high converting UGC video, because they don't understand the basics, right? So what do you think is an ideal process when it comes to creating a UGC? Like what is the exact framework that you follow when you create a UGC ad?
Absolutely right. So I think when it comes to, let's say, creating good UGC content, right, and more importantly, high converting UGC content, a big statement that has to be made clear is that a creative looking video is not a high performing ad. Just because the video aesthetically looks very great, that does not mean it'll perform well as an ad, right? And the thing is, in the whole world of Facebook ads, performance marketing, we get data on whether something performs good or no, right? So there's no room for intuition. It's all about data. Now, going into a question about what, let's say, is how would you structure UGC ads and what's the framework and thought process, right? The first thing, which is typically the most boring and people ignore, is an incredible amount of research, right? Like even, let's say, to give you some tidbits into how exactly we do it, right? Let's say any brand that comes on to our agency and they say they want to get creatives done. Typically, first we talk to the founder, understand more of their story. Why did they create the product, right? So they typically will already have, let's say, maybe it's a problem they faced in their life, and they created this brand as a solution to their own problem. So we understand that brand story also, right? I think Amazon is one of my personal favorite places, right? Because at least in India, typically it's quite common to have competitors, right? Check out the reviews, right? So reviews is basically giving you an insight to directly what does the customer think about the particular product, right? So what's more important is that when you this is what we tell the team as well, right? When you research a particular product or any industry, right, you should know about it as good as a customer would. Right. So it's even includes watching the kind of YouTube videos that they would, right? So let's say even in the skincare industry, like in our team, like even me personally, like I feel like I know way too much information about retinol, niacinamide and all, and I don't even use it myself, right? But then you have to really get into the minds of a consumer. That's the whole point of research, right? And going into the latter part about let's say now you got this research. When you research, you'll get tons of different ideas of how to basically angle it, right? So what we call by angle is, I like to look at it in terms of just a sales pitch, right? So let's say you go to a typical car showroom and they're selling you a particular car, right? There are multiple ways you can sell a car. Let's say, for example, if a family comes, you'll be like, hey, this car is super spacious for you. Nice weekend trip. You can go to this area, room for everybody. You can put this on the side. Maybe it's like somebody who's a bit more, they look a bit more like economical side. Hey, this car has great mileage, value for money. Same car. The product did not change at all. But the way you're selling the car is a different way. So that's what we term as marketing angles for us, right? So when you do the research, you will already come up with multiple angles to sell your particular product. Right? When you have those angles, you basically need to transfer them to, let's say, okay, now how do you make this a finished piece of video, right? How to tell the team, let's shoot this video, whatever, right? So breaking down a particular UGC video, right? There are actually two main elements of a particular ad, right? So the first we break into is hook, and then is you have the core body. So the hook is actually what is in the first 3 seconds of the ad, right? Now, the hook is arguably the most important part in creating an ad. I'll tell you why. It's because if you look at any Instagram reel, right? In fact, the next time you just scroll Instagram, look at your own behavior. If you're not hooked into that video in the first 2 to 3 seconds, you skip it, right? This exact behavior will also happen with your ads. If your ad is not compelling, does not make them stop scrolling, right? That's why we typically call it scroll stop. If they don't stop scrolling, it doesn't even matter what the rest of your ad says. So you really need to have a strong hook that gets people's attention, that gets them going like, maybe you just need to get them curious enough to find out, hey, what is this ad talking about? What is this video about? And let me find out more. That's it. You don't have to sell the product, nothing, right? So typically what we say, that's the first 3 seconds of the video, the hook. And you have to have very strong hooks. Then is the body. So the body of the ad is where we actually talk about the core angle, right? Like I said earlier, if you, let's say, selling a car through the mileage part of it, right? There is scripting that you have, you talk more about the mileage and you sell that aspect of it through the script in terms of what the creator is saying. And also there's two parts that, again, what they're saying, plus also what they're visually showing, right? And they both have to support and complement each other. So it's all the research, you dump it down into this thing, you make it into multiple angles, and those angles, you break them down into creating multiple different hooks, and you script out the videos on the back of that, and then you shoot it. That's typically what we're doing here.
Great. I think that was a well-detailed process that you laid out. I think definitely this is something that I think most of the people are going to take as a key takeaway from this session as well. So now that you have mentioned, so see, as I mentioned in the previous thing, right? So Facebook is not like how it was 5 years or 7 years back, right? Today, after the post iOS happened, the customer acquisition cost was a very big factor for most of the D2C.
Right.
The acquisition cost started going high, right? And because most of the people, even after the iOS update, a lot of people were still using creative, like the static creatives or just a carousel, a very simple carousel ad, but they were not using anything like how an UGC ad looks like, right? And recently is when a lot of brands have started using this real estate to come up with really good ideas, get customer feedback, testimonial, run a lot of things for different part of the funnel. So do you think today in 2023, do you think UGC ads plays a great role in reducing your customer acquisition cost? What is your thought on that?
Absolutely right. So I think in, let's say, today's day and age of Facebook ads 2023, right? I think if you are as a brand who's serious about your performance marketing, let's say, rely on a channel like Facebook ads to primarily acquire customers. Like creating UGC ads is your best bet at reducing customer acquisition cost. If you really want to bump up ROAS and, let's say, bring down your CPA or your CAC, UGC ads is by far the biggest leverage activity that you can do, right? So even instances, we have certain brands which we have created ads for, literally the same targeting, the same website, nothing is different, right? The only element we did was we changed the ad in the Facebook ads to UGC that we made, right? And we've been able to bring down CAC by even 50% for a lot of brands.
Wow.
Again, only variable was creative, right? So I would say, like, for any brand that we work with also, and I tell this to every other brand, if you're not willing to focus on creative, you might as well not run ads on Facebook. That's the way I look at it.
I definitely agree to that, because the brands that we are also working with, there were a lot of brands so there was this one specific brand that I would like to talk about. It was a skincare brand who was average order value was just 350 rupees. Okay. And the customer acquisition cost was almost 257. Got it?
Oh, okay.
It was a very, so the product price ranged from 250 to 350. That's the highest. 350 is the highest product they have. And initially, like we were struggling a lot, because if I check the unit economics for a particular product, like 250 or 257 rupees was a very high
CAC for it, yeah.
price, CAC for that particular product. And that's when we figured out, like, maybe why don't we test it? Because that's the time where a lot of agencies and marketers were investing a lot of time in creating these UGC ads. The moment we tested out a solid UGC ad for that particular customer, right from 257, the acquisition cost went to 96. And I was
Whoa, that's amazing. Yeah.
wow.
Right.
That was the percentage is also really high, right? By the time we use the acquisition cost, and even till today, for that particular skincare brand, that's the same UGC content is working out. And what we had is we just doubled down on that same concept. We changed the
exactly.
We changed the body, and it's still working out. And we are getting a good, even though the average order value is still less. Even today, the average order value is still less. But we were able to get them to a profitable stage where they're doing almost 9 to 10 lakhs a month easily, right? The ROI is also, even though they have a very
lower AOV,
AOV, because brand, like working with a brand that has a very low AOV is like very difficult task.
It's difficult,
yeah, it's really difficult unless and until you have a brand which has a AOV of at least 1,000 or 1,200, above 1,200.
Plus,
you have the freedom to maybe go up with the acquisition cost a bit more high. But a brand like this, we are very limited with a lot of things, and we don't have the enough freedom to do a lot of as well. So, based on your experience, do you have any case studies which you would like to share? What was that one interesting project that was a mind-blowing hack or a growth out of the box thinking that you did, which sort of had a great result when it comes to the end, and the end result was amazing? What do you have any such case?
For sure. So I think even when I explain to a lot of people about marketing angles, right, they go like, theory sounds cool, right? But what does that mean? I give you an example and stuff, right? So I always like this. There's a particular client who I work with. So his name is Narpat, right? So Narpat, he actually sells a digital product. He sells like an online course. So Narpat is a mentalist. Like he's a mind reader, right? Now, why his project, and he's a client we've been working for over 2 years now, right? And why it's so interesting is, if I just came and told, hey, Emil, you want to learn mind reading? You'll be like, cool, why not? Like, let me learn one trick or two, similar to magic, right? But then if I told, hey, now pay me money for it, you will just be like, you're not going to like quit your job as a marketer. Let me do mind reading full time, right? So it's actually a very difficult sell if you just think of it logically, right? Like, there's no reason why somebody will want to learn mind reading, right? So Narpat, our client, he came to us, he created an entire course about mind reading, right? And now, basically, what he wanted was to figure out through Facebook ads, how can we acquire customers, right? So initially, even the way that we approached this was more than testing audiences. We were like, we need to find the best sales pitch, the best marketing angle to sell this course, right? We tried so many different messages, right? Initially, what we saw from talking to customers who bought this course they were already magicians. Means these are already professionals performing. For them, it makes sense because they learned this course, learned some new tricks, they'll add that to the performance. But that's such a small audience size. How can you make more money doing that, right? So we were like, okay, we need to find a communication that appeals to the larger market where everybody should get interested and talk about this, right? So then that's when, even personally, just something, right? Let's say, even doing his course, even I learned what I just felt emotionally, right, as a human being, as a customer also, is when I did a trick to my friends, when I saw their reaction, I was like, oh, like, you just feel really cool. Your ego goes up, and they're just like, bro, how did you do it? What did you do? Like, suddenly you get all this attention, right? And suddenly you feel, and obviously you'll be very cool, be like, I won't tell you. You know what I mean? And that gives you a bit of ego, this thing, right? And I realized that is such a powerful, like, psychological force. There's that emotion, and you feel so cool, right? So that same emotion, we were figuring out how can we translate that to marketing angles, right? So we came up with this angle called become the most interesting person in the room. That's an angle that we came with, right? So we shot tons of different ads with Narpat himself in the ad, talking about how you learned this from this course and you can become the most interesting person in the room, right? And what was so amazing is, literally, we were able to scale this product, right? In this product, again, it was a 2,000 rupee course. We were able to do more than 1,000 sales in a month, right? It was doing extremely well. And what is even more better was, right, we would get so many DMs from like happy students who would do the course and be like, they would tell Narpat, sir, I was a massive introvert. I felt like a loser all my life, but I took up your course. I learned the tricks, and it's like, I'm so confident now. There were guys saying I'm doing these tricks to girls and getting dates. There were so much people saying, I did this in my office party, and suddenly everybody thinks I'm cool, right? So honestly, like that's the power of good communication, right?
Yeah.
And even the way, honestly, I look at it, it's like advertising purely is you're putting money to amplify a message,
Correct.
right? We're giving Facebook money saying, chalo, here's my message, what we call an ad, show that to a lot of people. So that's why it's important. What is your ad communicating? Right? Even here, the communication become the most interesting part of the room. We were able to scale the account infinitely bigger, right? And imagine, so we could have tested an image ad, a carousel, like what you said, other brands were doing earlier, right? And we would not have the results that we do have now. Just by transferring this message, and we cracked almost like, how brands talk about product market fit. There's even message market fit. Its message resonates with the market, right? And that's what we do in the creative testing. And that's always the thing I'm interested, because normally when you tell people, hey, how will you sell a mind reading course? They go like, I don't know, right? So then this was something that worked really well. So yeah.
So I think, as you rightly said, I think psychology, like where as a marketer, you also need to understand how a human brain works, right? So there's a lot of psychological trigger that you need to evoke in a human's brain, right? Your
Absolutely.
And also at the same time, copywriting plays a greater role. So how do you think, like,
absolutely,
and how do you think, how do I put it? So definitely psychology and copywriting plays an important role when it comes to UGC content, right? So as you rightly said, you have to you spoke to certain people, you showed some examples to your friends, and then you got to see the reaction, and with that you were able to create some good hooks for the program. Like, you want to become the interesting man in the interesting person in the room, so that you were able to talk to your end users, and you were able to get that hook, right? So I just wanted to know, do you think every single marketer out there thinks in this particular way, the way like you mentioned, right, talking to your end? Do you think not even marketers, do you think e-commerce brand owners, whatever the products that they're selling, do you think, I'm asking in a personal way, right? Do you think people are doing this? Do you think are they communicating to their customers in the right way? What is your thought?
If you frankly ask me, I would honestly say there definitely are people, but are there enough? Absolutely not. I think, like, even see me personally, again, there is a side of Vidhu, obviously, who's the marketer, but a side who's also customer, right? I also, let's say, want to buy a hoodie and I go online, right? But then it's, let's say, even if you look at, like, say, to buy plain black hoodie, right? It says every brand is saying, chalo, here's my model wearing plain black hoodie, why don't you buy it, right? So there's so much scope for improvement in that, right? Because I think, like, exactly like you said, personally, me as a marketer, right, the thing that's always fascinated me the most is I've always loved the origins of marketing. So if you think of it this way, right, marketing has and always will be about the psychology, not about the technology. Today it's Facebook ads, right? Maybe in 5 years time, when the metaverse, and who knows, we are all in VR goggles, nobody's going to run Facebook ads that time. So the thing is, technology will come and will go. Right. If you look at international markets, TikTok came in and suddenly TikTok was all the hype. Every brand was like, I need to get on TikTok. But if you look at it, right, the psychology of what makes human beings buy has never changed. Right. Back in the day, maybe hundreds of years ago, it was a newspaper. So they had a newspaper where they'll write just through copy and with then black and white visuals, they had to convince somebody, let me purchase from this brand. Now it's Instagram, because that's where all the attention is, right? So I'm a firm believer purely in understanding the psychology, and I think every brand, right, like, really it's more important. You need to crack down on why does somebody buy you, especially if competition over somebody else, because that's why people resonate. At the end of the day, taking out money and paying it to a brand, even if it's UPI, credit card, doesn't matter. It's still it's a commitment, right? So they clearly did that for one particular reason. The closer you can get to understanding that reason, that's actually what helps you scale. Right. So I really believe like that is the most important part about, like, you need to know why people are buying, right?
Got it. But so here's another question that I would like to know from you. Like, so you mentioned certain processes of how a UGC content works, and you also mentioned you also agreed to the point which I said, like, where psychology works in parallel with copywriting as well. That's when you get to
absolutely
come up with a really good UGC creative, right? But at the end, as a marketer, you don't just create one UGC content, rather you create multiple different content. You keep the body of the content the same, maybe the hooks might change, right?
Change up,
on an average, like, as a marketer, how do you analyze a particular ad? What are the metrics that you need to look in your Facebook ads manager whenever you're running these ad campaigns? What are the major key metrics that you look into, and how do you analyze them, and how do you come up with a right conclusion? Okay, this has worked, because not every single hook needs to work when you're running UGC.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
You have to test, right? So what are the metrics that you as a marketer will look into when you're UGC ads for Facebook ads?
Understood, right? It's a great question. So I think obviously we live in the whole digital marketing era where you do have actual data and pure numbers, right? So that, like I said, you create a video, you're not a judge based on, I feel this is great. Let the data tell the story, right? So we look at it in two lenses, right? One is we look at pre-click metrics of an ad, and we look at post-click metrics. So what I mean, I'll break it down. Pre-click first, right? First thing we try to look, like I said, a really important part of an ad is the hook, meaning how many people are actually stopping and watching 3 seconds, right? So a particular metric that we track, which you can create on Facebook dashboard, is called a scroll stop. So what scroll stop is, basically the formula is, right, you take all the impressions that ad got. So you do 3-second video views, meaning you're telling Facebook, everybody who saw 3 seconds of this ad, divide that by all the impressions, right? So this metric tells you, let's say from 10 people who saw your ad, how many people actually stopped. So if you get, so even here, the target we aim for typically is 30%. Means at least what we're aiming for is at least 3 out of 10 people are actually stopping to watch our ad. If you can, so there are certain brands we get 50% also, which is great. Means literally 1 in 2 people are stopping to watch our ad. So that means our hook is performing great, right? So then let's say the hook part, then you go to the body. So when it comes to the body, the 2 core metrics we look at is, we look at a metric called hold rate. So hold is, right, think of it this way, you made somebody stop scrolling. So now what? You've got their attention. Hold is how long can you hold their attention for, right? So the thing is, Instagram, let's say, as a platform, it's not YouTube. We're not here to watch long content. So ads, typically we keep it like 30 to 45 seconds in length, right? Hold rate is now from 3 seconds, how long are you able to hold their attention for. So a metric that we use to calculate this is called through plays divided by 3-second video views. So through play on Facebook is basically how many people saw 15 seconds of the ad. So basically we're dividing 15-second video views divided by 3-second who stopped to see, right? So even here we're trying to see how well is our body doing in retaining the user to watch the rest of the ad. So and then also we're tracking is your outbound click-through rate. Just purely seeing from this ad, are we building up enough interest, people want to click and go to the website, right? So even that's basically what we look at, the pre-click part of it. And when it comes to post-click, right, arguably the most important. At the end of the day, you can have a great hook, great CTR, and all that stuff is there. If it doesn't get sales, it's not working well, right? So still the core metrics we look for in every ad before we judge is, we definitely do track the purchase ROAS that ad is getting. We do track that. We also always have a benchmark in terms of the target CPA or the target CAC that we want a particular ad to have. So we track that. A metric that we also track is the conversion rate of the ad. What I mean by that is the traffic that ad is able to drive to the website, how well do they convert? And I think conversion rate is a metric which I think quite a few people ignore of an ad. And what we've even noticed, like studying a lot of data, right, is that there are certain ads which in theory have a lower CTR, a click-through rate. So, I mean, you would just look at it individually and be like, oh, this ad is not performing well, it's not getting good enough clicks. But sometimes the clicks that it does get actually converts really well. Meaning it's able to, whoever does click, the buying intent is very high and converts, right? So those are metrics also we track. So again, like I said, we divide pre-click and post-click. So we pretty much study every ad we create on this entire data set. And then we understand like the learnings from that. Okay, the hook is perfect, working great. Let's test more bodies. Bodies working great. Let's test 10 new hooks to this particular thing, right? So we keep iterating as we go to almost it's like a recipe. We're cooking up the best ad the brand can get. So yeah.
No, this actually clearly tells how much effort does go into. It's not only about creating a UGC ad, but there's a lot of work. Even after you create 4 or 5 variants of the single UGC ad, there's a lot of metrics that you need to watch and monitor to see which is working and optimize it based on that. Because the reason why I wanted to hear this from you is because a lot of people, or I would say a lot of marketers think just if you just run some kind of video ad where a customer is talking, they kind of assume that they end up getting a sale. But on the other side, it never gets it. And I've seen a lot of people coming back to me and saying that, like, hey, Emil, I tried a certain video, but I didn't get any sales. It's been running for a week time. I'm not getting any sales. And when I check their ads, I clearly understand why exactly there is no proper hook or there is no body. right? And they don't even track the necessary metrics to understand. So this
Exactly.
the entire thing that you mentioned, I think this gives a clear cut clarity on how a person or a marketer should actually monitor or create an entire UGC, and how do you monitor and get your analysis out of it. Because a lot of times when we recommend brand owners saying that, like, hey, we need to invest some amount of money in creating some UGC ads, or let's maybe call our existing customers and let's try to get some content out of it, or let's say we hire a micro influencer and let's try to create a script, and let's try to create some good UGC content. I see a lot of brand owners kind of have this thought in mind: do I have to invest money? This is also a major thing that I see in the upcoming. I mean, like I've been seeing this for a past. Like till the time I have been into the e-commerce sector, I have been seeing this trend where people literally kind of ignore and have no idea what exactly a UGC video can do and how powerful it is when you run it with performance marketing campaigns. Great. I think this is indeed a valuable takeaway. Again, a new takeaway for the audience as well. And so I think we have spoken a lot about, like, right from the scratch, like what is the basic of a UGC? How do you craft a high converting UGC ad, and what are the strategies that you need to use? And you also did a good case study, and also you mentioned about like what are the things that you need to keep in mind while you're analyzing your UGC ad. So based on this, what do you think is the future of UGC ad? Like, is there any new trend that you're seeing that is happening on the market, or any new development that you're seeing currently in the e-commerce space?
So I think when it comes to creative, right, honestly, like, say, even a lot of brands that I talk to, we do audits or we work with also, right? I think this message is slowly hitting home now, right? So even like, I love to hear this comment with brands going, like, we're testing like 10 new ads a month. And I go, like, okay, cool. That's like a step in the right direction, right? Right. But then, so even I like to look at, like, I work with a couple of international brands as well, and I look at them, right? They test 15 new ads every week. Right, because they understand that's how important it is to keep creative testing constantly going, right? It's a never-ending iterative process, right? So I'm honestly seeing, let's say, especially in Indian e-commerce, I'm starting to see a lot of brands adapt to that, because they are understanding that, okay, it's Facebook is not like earlier. It's not just simply just throw in some money, it's going to print money. Those are 2016 and those are long gone, right? So I think in terms of that, I'm definitely seeing an improvement in brands understanding this, but I still think they're at the stage now where they're like, chalo, it's like Vidhu and ML said, do UGC, so let me just create a customer testimonial video. But I think brands are starting to understand the strategy behind it. More people are coming up as a creative strategist where they're helping brands do that, right? So I think that's like a massive trend, I think, which I'm all for, because I think it's super important to get results, right? And I think just generally in e-commerce also, while creative is very important, right? One particular trend that I'm seeing, which a lot of brands are leveraging, which is very important, is, right, like I spoke earlier, we always look at things from pre-click and post-click. So I'll give you an example, which is, let's assume you have a UGC creator, right, who creates a particular, let's say like an unboxing video or like a review video. What is a very interesting tidbit that we've also tested with a couple of brands and work really well is, you have that creator, let's say, create a video. When somebody clicks and goes to the product page or the landing page, have that same creator's face all over the page, right? So the thing is that also why that's good too, because it gives you congruence. Meaning, if I click this particular ad thinking about this particular, let's say, what he or she said about the product, when I go there and I see her face also, that congruence is there. And even what you should do is, right, it's not just about pre-click, even post-click in the landing page that you drive them to, make the copy similar to the angle that she spoke of in her ad. Right. So then the customer journey message wise is very synchronized, very much in sync, right? So I'm seeing a lot of brands start to test this out as well. And the thing is, it's actually giving them way higher conversion rates, right? Overall. So the entire ROAS of their ads are improving. So again, it's not just UGC driving traffic. They're able to leverage creators to create better product pages as well. It's quite simple. Take a photo shoot with them, throw their face up on the about the fold of a landing page, use the copy that they mentioned there, different things like that, right? I think that's a really innovative thing, which, we are doing for a lot of brands, and it's been giving us great results. Should definitely give it a try. And I'm seeing more and brands slowly adopt that as well.
Wow, that was indeed a really insightful. I think I could maybe tell that's a growth hack. I think maybe, and also I kind of resonated with how symmetric messaging works as well, right? You see an ad, and if you are not able to convey the same message on your product page, again, more like misleading for the
It is, yeah.
customer, right? And I think that's definitely a valuable point that you mentioned. And I think indeed, definitely every single brand has to follow this methodology, and I'm
Absolutely,
sure
yeah.
it's gonna definitely increase their conversion. At the end, you definitely have to increase the conversion rate so that you become more profitable. Before, it's not only about pumping in your TOF, right? Your top of the funnel audience.
Exactly.
So about how do you convert those top of the funnel audience to your paid customers. I think that was a
Exactly.
very strategy that you shared with the audience as well. So
Right.
before I come to the end of the show, right? What are your certain tips or tricks that you want to share with the audience when it comes to running UGC ads with respect to performance marketing?
Yeah, so I think just couple of like general notions for any brand, let's say who's watching this, who sees like, you know what, let's test a couple of UGCs, right? Couple of things. One is it's actually important the creator that you choose, right? So let's say whichever creator, guy or girl you choose to be behind the camera, they are what a customer looks for is right. They need to look like your customer in terms of the way they talk, maybe even the way that they dress, right? These things matter because I'm more likely to listen to someone who I feel looks like me and speaks like me if that's a target customer. I think so. That is one important bit. Second thing, what's also important, right, in the UGC videos, you need so like I like this concept where people say make ugly ads, which is don't make this high production value, super get studio lighting and all that stuff, right? Keep it simple. An iPhone does the job absolutely well, right? And but even if the camera is a bit shaky, weirdly enough, I'll make sure obviously the subject is very clear. If the camera is a bit shaky, again, it looks more native to the platform. It should look like your friend could have shot this on their phone, right? So I think that is again helps you a lot in your hooks, especially because people don't stop scrolling. And I think an important bit also which we've noticed and we've improved in our process is the pacing of a video. So what I mean by pacing is right, a video should not feel very slow and very draggy, right? Meaning it's almost like so in when we edit the videos, we actually cut out a lot of the buts, ifs, that, and we just make it more fast paced. So it's like because again, I know that like attention is the most biggest asset in this economy, right? So if I stop somebody from scrolling and I have their attention, I want to make every second worth it. So I want to make everything fast paced as possible, right? So again, we focus a lot on the visuals that we show along with the script as well. It's not just the script that gets somebody sold, right? It's also the visual. Again, like don't just say the benefit of a product, show me the benefit of the product, right? So I think adding that and improving the pacing. So in fact, even some videos, we actually almost, when we like edit it, it's almost in 1.5x. It's very fast the way it's done because we're trying to show the entire story visually to the customer, right? So I think these are some tidbits I think that's very important to do when you do create UGC ads to test it out. But again, like, you know, in this video, even I explained the framework, right? Because it's almost like science. Like I'm not a science guy at all, not an engineer by background either. But in science, it's basically you have a hypothesis and you launch a test and you see how it works. Same thing where you have multiple angles. That's your hypothesis. Launch the test, let the data tell the story whether the test was a fail or no. If it was a success, great, iterate. See the data, where did you make mistakes, where can you improve, and keep improving that. If the angle as a whole, all the 3 ads you made were a fail, no problem, go to the next angle, right? And like trust me, by doing this process, you will eventually find out an angle that works well. You'll keep iterating on that, and you'll get this winner ad exactly like you said. You'll be able to get ads where you get like a 95 CAC for a 300 AOV product, right? It's absolutely possible even in today's day and age, but it's a game of testing, right? So I love marketing mainly because of the testing part. So keep testing always. It never stops. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. I think those were some killer tips. I think everybody should definitely implement. And me being a marketer as well, I think I was able to take a lot of valuable points from this session. So thank you so much, Vidhu. I think this was indeed a very, very valuable session. And I think definitely the audience listening to this particular episode are indeed going to take a lot of key takeaways from this particular series. And yeah, thank you so much. And I hope to do a lot more conversations with you in the near future.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Great talking to you, Vidhu.